Have you ever felt like you're trying to play chess while everyone else is perfectly happy playing checkers? It's not just that the game is different, you're seeing the board in 3 dimensions, calculating moves 10 steps ahead, while the world around you seems content with a simple jump. For a lot of really bright people, this feeling of being out of sync with the world isn't just a passing thought, it's a daily reality. It's that quiet, nagging sense of being an outsider, even when you're in a room full of people. You spot patterns, connect dots, and see consequences that others seem to miss. And that clarity, that constant processing, can feel like it's creating a gap between you and everyone else. It's a profound and often unspoken loneliness. But what if that feeling of being misunderstood has a shadow side? What if, without you even realizing it, your mind has started using its intelligence not just to understand the world, but to manage it and the people in it? This isn't about being a bad person or having malicious intent. It's about the hidden, unconscious strategies a mind develops to cope with feeling different. It's a journey into the self-protective instincts that can curdle into control. Today, we're not here to judge. We're here to understand the psychology behind why some of the sharpest minds can feel so alone, and how that loneliness can give rise to a subtle, yet powerful set of behaviors. The shared secret: why brilliance can be isolating. Before we get into the shadows, we have to understand where they come from. That feeling of being different isn't just in your head. For some highly intelligent people, it's a core part of their experience, and it often starts with a mind that's just wired a little differently. One reason for this is something researchers in the field of giftedness sometimes refer to as intellectual overexcitability. This isn't arrogance, it's an intense, almost physical need to think, analyze, and get to the bottom of things. Your mind doesn't just passively receive information. It takes it apart, examines its components, and stress tests its logic. So while a conversation might be about the weather, your mind is 3 layers deeper, thinking about the complex atmospheric systems driving it, the historical data on weather patterns, or the poetics of a coming storm. While others see a simple fact, you see a rich tapestry of interconnected ideas. This craving for depth can make small talk feel painfully empty, leaving you feeling intellectually starved and perpetually out of place. This can lead to a little something many of us know all too well: analysis paralysis. The ability to see a dozen different outcomes for every single situation isn't always a superpower. Sometimes it's a cage. While others make a decision based on their gut, you're stuck staring at a mental flowchart of everything that could possibly go wrong, and everything that could go right, and the ripple effects of each of those possibilities. The world might see someone who's indecisive or hesitant, but on the inside, you're wrestling with a universe of possibilities that others don't even see. You're running complex simulations in your head, weighing variables most people aren't aware exist, and the sheer weight of all that data can be immobilizing. This feeling gets reinforced by social experiences. Maybe you learned early on to downplay your thoughts to avoid being called too serious or a know-it-all. You hold back that question that pokes a hole in the group's plan, or you bite your tongue when a conversation feels trivial and you're craving substance. This kind of constant self-censoring is exhausting. It's a full-time job of social calculation, deciding how much of your authentic self is safe to reveal. It creates a gap between who you are on the inside and the carefully curated version of you that you show the world. Over time, that gap can start to feel like a canyon, and the loneliness sets in. And often the emotional world of a gifted person is just as intense as their intellectual one. Your sense of justice might be fierce. You feel the world's hypocrisies not just as annoying, but as a personal affront. A news story about corruption isn't just a headline. It's a deep systemic failure that you feel in your bones. It doesn't just bother you, it can genuinely wound you. While others move on, you're left alone to process the emotional weight of it all. You might try to process these deep feelings through a logical, internal filter, which can be mistaken by others for being cold or detached, when in reality, you might be feeling things more deeply than anyone in the room. This fundamental misunderstanding is the fertile ground from which some unhealthy coping strategies can begin to grow. The unseen defenses, coping mechanisms of the misunderstood mind. When you feel constantly misunderstood, your mind, in a desperate and often brilliant attempt to protect you, starts building defenses. But for a highly analytical mind, these aren't just simple walls. They can be complex, multi-layered strategies designed to manage anxiety and regain a sense of control. It's crucial to say that these behaviors are not a product of intelligence itself. Rather, they are unhealthy coping mechanisms that can emerge when a sharp mind is trying to deal with feelings of insecurity or isolation. Let's look at a few of these unconscious tactics. 1. Intellectual armor. The first and most common tactic is turning your greatest asset into a weapon. When you feel emotionally vulnerable or backed into a corner, you might unconsciously pivot the conversation to a topic where you're the expert. The goal is no longer to connect, but to regain control by establishing intellectual dominance. You use facts, logic, and complex words like a shield, deflecting the emotional core of the interaction and shifting it to a battlefield where you know you can win. Think about it. Have you ever been in a discussion that started to get a little too personal, and you suddenly found yourself dismantling the other person's argument point by perfect, logical point? In the moment, it feels like a victory. You've reestablished order, but it's a hollow victory. You've proven you're smart, but you've also pushed the person away, reinforcing the very isolation you were trying to defend against. This can also create a perpetual critic persona. Because you can see the potential flaw in any plan, you point it out. You tell yourself it's just being honest or helpful, but often it's a preemptive strike. It feels like a responsibility. If you can see how something might fail, it's your duty to warn others. But in reality, by finding the weakness in everything around you, you prevent anything from getting close enough to find the weakness in you. It's a powerful defense, but it keeps you in a lonely fortress of your own making. 2. Strategic withdrawal. The second tactic is more passive, but it's a powerful one. Strategic withdrawal. This is more than just being an introvert who needs to recharge. This is using your silence and your absence as a tool to signal displeasure or to control a situation. Because your presence and your thoughts are potent, you learn that taking them away has a real and noticeable impact. When someone hurts or disappoints you, instead of having a direct, messy, emotional conversation, you just pull back. You go quiet. You stop offering those insights and jokes they've come to expect. That silence is deafening. It forces the other person to wonder what they did, to second-guess themselves, and to work to get back in your good graces. Internally, you justify this as taking the high road. You're not yelling or arguing, you're just taking space. But it's a way of influencing others by making them feel the weight of your absence, giving you control without having to risk any emotional vulnerability. It's a classic passive-aggressive maneuver that keeps you safe from the unpredictability of direct conflict. 3. Preemptive social analysis. The third tactic is maybe the most complex because it hijacks your analytical nature for social purposes. It's the tendency to overanalyze people, predict their moves, and subtly steer interactions toward a safe or desired outcome. This is where you essentially start treating human relationships like a math problem to be solved or a game of chess to be won. Instead of just listening to someone and being present in the moment, you might find yourself scanning them for their insecurities, their motives, their patterns of speech. This isn't necessarily a conscious, malicious plot. It often starts as an anxious attempt to understand the social rules that seem to come so easily to others. You're just trying to get ahead of the game so you don't get hurt or caught off guard. The cost, however, is immense. You are never truly relaxed, never spontaneous. You're constantly running a complex social simulation in the background, which is cognitively draining and prevents genuine, in-the-moment connection. It's important to draw a clear line here. These kinds of behaviors are not the same as the calculated, exploitative tactics associated with certain personality traits, like narcissism or psychopathy. While a person with such traits might also be intelligent, their manipulative behavior stems from a lack of empathy and a desire for exploitation, not as a defense against feeling misunderstood. For the person we're talking about today, the tragedy is that you're so busy trying to predict and manage the game, you forget how to just play and connect. Recognizing these patterns in yourself can be uncomfortable. It takes a lot of self-awareness and courage to look at your own behavior with this level of honesty. So if any of this is hitting close to home, know that you're not the only one who has ever felt or acted this way. The first step always is understanding. So I'd love to know, do you relate to any of these struggles? Which of these coping mechanisms feels the most familiar to you? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your insight is valuable not just for me, but for everyone in this community who knows what this feels like. Let's create a space for understanding, not judgment. And if you're ready to keep exploring the complexities of the human mind, be sure to subscribe. The revelation, from unconscious armor to conscious choice. Seeing these patterns in yourself, the intellectual armor, the strategic silence, the sought over analysis might feel like a harsh verdict. It can feel like proof that you're just a difficult or even manipulative person, but that is the final trick your mind is playing on you. The big reveal here is not that you have a dark side, but that these behaviors are not who you are. They are your armor. It's a suit that your mind built, piece by intricate piece, to protect a part of you that felt vulnerable, misunderstood, and alone. The psychologist Carl Jung talked about the need to confront our shadow, the parts of ourselves we don't want to admit exist. These tendencies are part of that shadow. They were born from the very real pain of feeling isolated. Your powerful mind simply used the tools it knew best: logic, pattern recognition, and analysis, and misapplied them to the messy, beautiful, irrational world of human connection. The problem is that armor is heavy, and it's terribly lonely inside. It was built to keep out the bad, but it also keeps out the good, preventing the very thing you probably crave most: a genuine connection with someone who truly gets you. It promised safety, but delivered a gilded cage, soundproofed not just from threats, but from laughter and intimacy too. So what's the way out? It's not about trying to be less smart, it's about becoming more aware. It's about turning that powerful, analytical mind inward, but with compassion this time instead of criticism. When you feel the urge to win an argument with pure logic, you can pause and ask yourself, am I trying to connect right now, or am I just trying to feel safe? When you find yourself pulling away into a cold, punishing silence, you can ask, what am I actually afraid of saying out loud? What feeling am I trying to avoid by shutting down? When you catch yourself analyzing someone like they're a puzzle, you can ask, am I trying to understand this person to empathize with them, or am I trying to predict them to control the outcome? This is the real work, acknowledging your shadow without letting it call the shots. It's about consciously choosing to put down the armor, even just for a moment, and daring to be vulnerable. It's about using your intelligence not just to take the world apart, but to build a bridge to it. The goal is integration, not suppression. You don't need to be less of who you are. You just need to become more of who you are. The brilliant mind, the sensitive soul, and the person who is brave enough to seek connection not as a strategy, but as a real, fundamental human need. The feeling of being different might never disappear completely, but it doesn't have to define your life. By understanding its shadows, you gain the power to choose. You can stay in the fortress, or you can learn to walk out into the world fully and completely yourself. The choice is yours.